Really.
Well, we've taken a look at a couple different models or a continuum of models. Right now, let's focus in on two. And we're doing this to think about not only the individual and the experience, but also the outcomes. Let's start off with a young man with Down syndrome.
Hello, my name is Nolan Smith, and I am about to graduate high school. Now, I have been fully included for most of my K-12 learning experience. Yes, there were times where I might spend time with a special educator. However, as I look back, nearly 100% of my education was spent with my general education friends.
So you were, like, say, this past year, you were in general education classrooms like what, Nolan?
I was in a U.S. government class, as well as geology and astronomy, choir, and also a video class, and a journalism class, and my reading class called Lit Workshop with my same age friends.
Well, how did that turn out for you, Nolan?
Well, I don't know any different, but I can tell you, I know a lot of people, and they know me. For example, I was voted to the homecoming court this past fall. Not only that, but out of the court I was voted royalty, which some people might remember being called king or queen. Here's a picture of me with Tiffany, a friend of mine since kindergarten. She was also voted to royalty or queen.
So let's go ahead and take a look at this, and we'll skip when Tiffany gets announced, and we'll just get to a point where you get announced, okay, Nolan?
Sure.
And we'll listen to what your friends have to say about it.
And Nolan.
You were pretty excited, and it looks like your friends were pretty excited, but let's listen a little bit longer.
Another part.
You too. Keep it in the family. Keep it in the Smiths. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's pretty indicative of the fact that when they're cheering for you, that's kind of how they feel about you. So that's pretty good, Nolan. So, Nolan, you spent your entire day in the general ed classroom. Did you have a special education teacher with you in the classroom?
No, my teacher was always the general ed teacher. They were in charge and worked with me to do well.
So the general education teacher was there, what, to support you, plan for you, and basically be your go-to person, huh, Nolan?
That's right.
Well, because of that, Nolan, and because of this level of inclusion, I'd have to say it's afforded you a number of opportunities. For example, to practice that speech of yours, or engage socially, or learn about what's expected and practice that, and learn, of course, with your same age peers at the same level. And so kind of the list goes on. How did the teachers make it work, Nolan?
Well, they always focused on the big ideas with me. My teachers had and continue to have high expectations, but they always believe we will all have differences and learn differently.
You know, one of the ways I think about that, Nolan, is this idea of universal design for learning, that third picture there. So, I know you have some barriers, and instead of having that fence that you can't see through, I think a lot of your teachers went with planning and redesigning, where if there are any barriers, they try to redesign around them, like redesigning around that fence, so they don't need to have extra accommodations or modifications or things of that like that. Now, were there certain barriers for you, Nolan?
That's right. One of my barriers had always been reading. I've gotten much better and was actually elected at Sunday Math today. However, teachers needed to give me content, beyond the textbook.
So they had to do a lot of planning, I think. They had to do a lot of planning for you and kind of think about ways to not only plan for you and redesign for you, Nolan, but I think for a number of individuals. But of course, they had these high expectations. Now, maybe you can give me an example of some of these big ideas and how that all worked, Nolan?
Back in the sixth grade, one of the big ideas was the explorers. I learned about Lewis and Clark and shared what I knew in a brief radio presentation. Here, take a listen.
So here you are, and I think your voice is a little different in this one, isn't it, Nolan?
It's a lot younger.
Let's listen.
My presentation on Lewis and Clark. You are about to watch a slide show about the Lewis and Clark expedition. In 1830, Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson, our third president, asked Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to.
So, Nolan, I think this was about a 3-minute video presentation you sent to your teacher, Mrs. R., and she was able to look at it and be able to grade you. We don't want to use her real name. So she was able to grade you, and you did a lot of these throughout the year. So this was a great way for you to be included with high expectations, but also ways to kind of replan around them. Now, I know you've continued with that, and I think you have a recent example here in high school where you've continued with these video and demonstration with journalism class, right?
Yes. Yes, this was a part of a journalism class where I could share what I knew through a video presentation.
And what's it called, Nolan?
It is called Strolling with Nolan.
Well, let's take a brief look here at the beginning of it and see how it all works out. But you've had video be part of your inclusionary experience throughout your high school experience and actually elementary and middle. So here we go.
Hi, this is your reporter, Nolan Smith. I'm here today with a new broadcast series called Strolling with Nolan. On the show, I'm going to talk with people all over LHS about a variety of topics, asking them questions while we take a walk together. Today, we'll be speaking with LHS parent educators about their experiences working with students. Now, it's time to stay tuned to Strolling with Nolan.
So as we wrap up this pathway, this full inclusion with you, Nolan, I'd have to say from what we understand now through your inclusion at the elementary, middle, and now high school level, that a lot of opportunities, a lot of options are available to you. You have the option for employment. You have the option to go to the university. What university are you going to go to?
Of course, Rochester Jayhawk going to KU.
You're going to the University of Kansas, but in the meantime, you're going to do a program with the public schools that offers some support with kind of getting some job skills, similar to a lot of college and career readiness programs. And again, that's available to you. And you had to interview for that, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And you had to be accepted, and that was a very competitive program. So again, a lot of opportunities from that full inclusion back to those high expectations and the different supports. So that's one pathway we could take with our model, and that's more of our full inclusion model. Now we'll take a break here, folks, and Nolan will join us again, and we'll kind of consider another pathway, which is a little bit more restrictive, a little bit more of a resource or potential segregated model that Michael introduced to us here.